You're lying there arching your back so perfectly it belongs in a chiropractor's textbook, holding your breath to keep your stomach flat and wondering why he suddenly lost the rhythm. It's because he's sleeping with a mannequin, not a woman. I need you to really hear me on this, because over the last 15 years of coaching millions of women and getting the raw, unfiltered truth from thousands of men behind closed doors, I've realized there is a massive silent disconnect in the bedroom. We are going to talk about physical intimacy today. Not the fairy tale romance, not the vague emotional fluff, but the actual literal mechanics of what you are doing with your physical body when things get heavy. There is this incredibly common, highly stylized thing you do when you are fooling around, something society, magazines, and late night movies have convinced you is the absolute peak of sex appeal. You perform, you try to look like a paused frame of a cinematic masterpiece, you put on a routine, and I am telling you right now, it is the exact thing that is pulling him out of the moment, killing the connection and turning him off. Let's break down the physical movements of this performance so you can feel exactly what I am talking about. When the lights go down and the action starts heating up, what instinctively happens to your body, you suck in your stomach. You lock your hips into this rigid, tilted angle that you think makes your silhouette look incredible in the dim light. You stiffen your neck, throw your chin up, and freeze your arms in these awkward, calculated positions so your muscles look toned. You are basically doing extreme bedroom yoga. You think you are giving him this irresistible visual treat. You think this rigid, perfectly angled posture is driving him absolutely crazy. But from his perspective, mechanically and emotionally, it is a disaster. He is trying to get busy with someone who feels like they are made entirely of tension. Men are highly physical, deeply tactile creatures. When a man is touching you, he isn't just looking at the shape of your body, he is feeling the physical feedback of your muscles under his hands. If he runs his hand down your side and hits a literal wall of flexed, rigid muscle because you are trying to hold a perfect pose, his brain gets an immediate subconscious signal. That signal isn't about how hot you look. The signal his brain receives is that you are tense, you are uncomfortable, and you are not enjoying what is happening. You are trying to manufacture visual appeal, but physically, you are broadcasting stress. Good physical intimacy, the kind that makes a guy absolutely obsessed with you, the kind that makes him think about the smell of your skin and the way you move for days after, is about physical surrender. It is about the melt. Let me explain the mechanical difference between performing and melting. When you are making out and transitioning to the sheets, your instinct might be to control the visual scene. You grab his shoulders stiffly, you hold your head at the perfect angle so your hair falls just right across your collarbone, and you try to dictate the pace. I want you to mechanically change what your body is doing the next time things get physical. I want you to exhale completely, literally blow all the air out of your lungs. When you hold your breath to look skinny, your diaphragm locks up. Your chest gets incredibly tight, your shoulders creep up to your ears, and your physical movements become jerky and mechanical. Exhaling drops your shoulders. It softens your rib cage. It allows your hips to actually move. Think about the mechanics of the pelvis. If your core is flexed tight as a drum to hide a tiny roll on your stomach, your pelvis cannot rock. It cannot follow his rhythm. You become a physical roadblock instead of a dance partner. When a guy puts his hand on your stomach while you are messing around, he actually wants to feel the deep rise and fall of your breath. It signifies life, passion, and genuine arousal. If he feels a washboard of tense, sucked in muscle, he subconsciously feels physical rejection. Let's talk about the mechanics of your hands, because this is a huge giveaway that you are in your head instead of your body. The performative, so-called Sєxy move is often these light, feathery, almost ghostly touches that you see in bad romantic comedies, or conversely digging your nails in so artificially hard you are basically giving him unwanted acupuncture to seem wild. Both are pure performance. Real, intoxicating physical connection requires grounded touch. When you are bumping around, instead of letting your hands hover nervously or clench artificially, I want you to place your palms completely flat against his skin. Feel the actual heat of his body. When he moves, your hands should glide with a real sense of weight to them. This isn't just about making him feel good physically, it is a mechanical trick to anchor yourself in your own body. When your palms are flat and wrapping solidly around his back or the back of his neck, you are physically tethering your brain to the present moment. You stop thinking about whether your double chin is showing from his angle, and you start feeling the actual texture of his skin and the muscle moving beneath it. This mechanical shift from performative visual touching to grounded tactile movement changes the entire energy of the room. He feels you land. He feels you finally arrive in the bed with him. Now we need to get down to the hips, because this is where the real mechanics of doing the deed come into play. The biggest physical mistake women make when trying to be performatively sexy is initiating an artificial, hyper-aggressive rhythm. You've seen a video or you have an idea in your head of how a wild, uninhibited woman moves, so you start grinding or moving your hips in this incredibly fast, forced tempo that has absolutely nothing to do with the rhythm he is setting. You are essentially dancing wildly to a song that is only playing in your own headphones. It is physically jarring for him. It forces him to stop what he is doing, lose his own natural momentum, and try to catch your runaway train. To a guy, it feels completely mechanical. It feels like you are executing a gymnastics routine rather than making love to him. The authentic turn on is responsive movement, not forced performance. It lives in the micro movements. When he pulls you in, do not just flop there like a dead weight, but do not aggressively fight his direction either. If he shifts his body weight to the left, your hips should naturally, smoothly pivot to accommodate the space he is creating. It is a physical conversation. When he naturally slows down, you mechanically slow down with him. You let the tension build in that slowness. The sexiest physical movement you can possibly make is a slow, deeply connected, heavy roll of your hips that perfectly matches his pace, showing him physically that you are feeling exactly what he is feeling. It is never about putting on a solo show. It is about sharing the exact same physical wavelength. Let's talk about your face. Oh, the infamous bedroom face. I have heard guys talk about this specific phenomenon so many times behind closed doors. You are in the middle of getting down, and you throw on this overly exaggerated, pouting, heavy-lidded expression. You bite your bottom lips hard and hold it for so long it becomes a medical hazard. You are trying to give him that sultry, untamed look you practiced in the bathroom mirror. But mechanically, what are you actually doing to your face? You are fiercely tensing your jaw. You are aggressively squinting. You are completely shutting down the actual natural physical responses that happen to human facial muscles when a person truly feels pleasure. When a man looks down and sees that manufactured rigid pout, it does not scream passion to him. It screams that you are producing a photo shoot in your head. A man who actually cares about you, a man who is deeply invested in the physical chemistry between you two, wants to see you actually lose control. He wants to see the raw, unfiltered physical reaction to his touch. Mechanically, this means deliberately unclenching your jaw. Let your mouth fall open slightly and naturally. Let your breathing become audible, not in a fake, screechy, performative way, but in a real, heavy, chest deep way. When you physically relax the muscles in your face, the blood flow in your body actually changes. Your skin flushes naturally. Your eyes dilate naturally. You absolutely cannot fake dilated pupils, but you can allow them to happen by dropping the ridiculous performance and actually feeling the sensation of his hands on your body. Think about the mechanical curvature of your spine. The ultimate performative sexy move is to arch your back to an extreme, almost painful degree. Yes, a slight arch can be visually appealing for a moment, but when you hold that deep arch statically for 5 straight minutes while you are messing around, your lower back muscles are literally screaming in agony. Your overall movement becomes entirely restricted because your spine is locked. You can't seamlessly roll. You can't twist into him. You can't fluidly push back against him. You are trapped in a tight statue of your own making. Instead of holding a static, painful arch, I want you to start thinking of your spine as fluid. When he pulls you tightly against his chest, mechanically let your spine curve forward into him. Let your body physically mode into the pockets and grooves of his body. When he pushes back, that is when you arch, but you do it as a dynamic rolling movement like a wave, not a frozen locked posture. This physical fluidity tells his nervous system that you are physically safe with him and completely relaxed. It triggers a deeply protective, intensely passionate response in a man's brain. He feels like he is holding a living, breathing, wildly reacting woman, not a stiff window display mannequin waiting for a director to yell cut. Let's dive straight into the literal distribution of your body weight when you are tangled up together under the sheets, because this is a mechanical nightmare for so many women who are stuck in performance mode. When you are rolling around, especially if you happen to be positioned above him or leaning over him, your absolute worst enemy is your own insecurity about feeling heavy. I have heard this from countless men in my coaching sessions who are completely baffled by it. You get so completely paranoid about crushing him or looking incredibly soft from a downward angle that you mechanically engage your entire core, lock your elbows, and basically hold yourself in a hovering, modified plank position. You are burning massive amounts of calories trying to defy gravity while supposedly making love. You think you are being light, delicate, and fiercely sexy, but physically to the guy underneath you, he feels exactly what you are doing. He feels the extreme muscular tension vibrating through your rigid arms. He feels you physically withholding yourself from him. When you refuse to let your body weight sink into his, the emotional translation in his male brain is a deep lack of intimacy. He wants the physical pressure. He literally craves the grounding sensation of your body pressing fully and unapologetically into his. Mechanically, the next time you are on top or draped across him, I want you to deliberately release your elbows. Stop holding yourself up like you are doing a push-up. Let your chest completely collapse against his chest. Let your thighs rest fully and heavily on his hips. The physical act of surrendering your dead weight onto a man communicates absolute trust. It tells him through the raw mechanics of gravity and touch that you feel completely safe, completely letting go with him. The heavy, melting sink of your body is 1,000 times more intoxicating to a man than the rigid, hovering gymnastics routine. Then there are your legs and the absolutely ridiculous things you are doing with them to try and manufacture a flawless silhouette. We have been so heavily conditioned by glossy magazines and incredibly heavily edited bedroom scenes on television that you instinctively try to arrange your legs into perfect, camera-ready geometric angles. You point your toes so aggressively hard to make your calves look flexed that you are practically 1 second away from a massive Charlie horse. You keep your knees rigidly locked or sharply bent in these hyper-stylized poses that take total mental focus to maintain. Here's the mechanical truth about doing that during heavy action. It creates friction in all the wrong ways and kills the actual tactile experience. When your legs are locked into a tense pose, you are minimizing the surface area of your skin that is actually making contact with him. You become sharp and angular instead of soft and enveloping. I want you to mechanically stop pointing your toes like a ballerina on a stage. Relax your ankles completely. Instead of holding your legs rigidly out or rigidly bent, start using the entire inner surface area of your thighs and calves to physically wrap around him. When you slide your leg over his, do it with the heavy drag of relaxed muscle. When a man feels the soft, yielding, completely unflexed weight of your legs tangling up with his, it physically triggers his primal instinct to pull you closer. You go from being a stiff obstacle he has to maneuver around to being fluid water that completely surrounds him. It physically changes the entire temperature of the room when you stop posing your limbs and start actually using them to anchor yourself to his body. We absolutely have to talk about the mechanics of your neck and your hair, because this is where the performance gets incredibly obvious and physically incredibly awkward. When things start getting heavy, you get completely in your head about your hair getting messy or ending up with an unflattering double chin. So what do? You mechanically stiffen your neck, you jut your chin forward awkwardly or pin your head at this bizarre, stiff sideways angle so your hair falls perfectly over one shoulder. You are so worried about looking disabled that you essentially give yourself temporary whiplash trying to keep your head perfectly still while the rest of your body is supposed to be wildly moving. Guys notice this immediately. When a guy reaches around to the back of your neck to pull you in for a deep kiss and his hand meets a literal steel rod of tense neck muscles, it instantly shatters the illusion of passion. Real physical intimacy is inherently beautifully messy. Mechanically, you have to let go of the control of your head. When he touches your neck, I want you to physically drop the tension at the base of your skull. Let your head tilt back organically. Expose your throat to him. Mechanically dropping your head back and exposing the front of your neck is one of the most deeply ingrained biological signs of physical submission and total trust in the animal kingdom. When you let your head fall back heavily into his hand, it creates a massive rush of emotional connection for him. Stop worrying about the hair. Let it get completely wrecked. A man loves nothing more than seeing the physical evidence of his effect on you. Messy hair and a completely relaxed, unguarded neck tell him that you are fully lost in the physical pleasure he is providing rather than mentally calculating your camera angles. Let's break down the mechanical transition phases, because this is where so many women completely drop the ball and accidentally ruin the physical momentum. You are bumping around, things are going incredibly well, and then it is time to naturally shift positions. When you are in performance mode, you treat this shift like you are suddenly navigating an awkward obstacle course. You physically detach completely, you pull your arms in tightly, you nervously scramble over to the other side of the bed, and you reset your body into a new sexy pose before letting him touch you again. You literally hit the pause button on the intimacy. You create this massive cold physical gap that forces his brain to completely restart the engine once you are settled. Transitioning shouldn't be a break in the action. Mechanically, it should be a continuation of the dance. I want you to physically practice staying tethered during the shift. If you need to roll over and move your hips to a different angle, do not completely let go of him. Drag your hands slowly across his chest as you turn. Keep the side of your hip pressed against his leg as you slide down. Maintain a slow, continuous, heavy physical drag of your skin against his skin while the mechanics of the position change. By never fully breaking the physical contact, you maintain the heavy, thick emotional atmosphere you've built up. You show him that you are so completely addicted to the feeling of his body that you literally refuse to let a single millimeter of air between you two. Even when you are just readjusting, that kind of continuous flowing physical tethering drives a man absolutely wild because it feels intensely hungry and completely unchoreographed. Now we need to address the actual mechanics of the sounds you are making, because your vocal cords are part of your physical body, and right now your breathing is completely betraying your performance. We all know the stereotype, the ridiculously loud, hyper-exaggerated, high-pitched vocalizations that adult movies have convinced everyone is the ultimate sound of a woman losing her mind. When you force those sounds mechanically, the noise is being entirely produced entirely up in the tight muscles of your throat. It sounds thin, sharp, and totally artificial. And trust me, guys know exactly what a fake performative sound is, and it completely pulls them out of the emotional depth of the moment. They feel like they are being applauded for a magic trick rather than intimately connected with. The actual physical mechanics of genuine pleasure do not happen in your tight throat. They happen deep inside your chest cavity. When you are truly melting, your vocalizations shouldn't sound like a loud, sharp performance. They should be felt as a heavy mechanical vibration. When you physically drop your shoulders, completely relax your jaw, and let out a deep, heavy exhale from your actual diaphragm, the sound that comes out is a low, throaty hum. If your chest is pressed against his chest when you let out that deep, relaxed, heavy breath, he will literally feel the mechanical vibration of your lungs against his own ribs. That deep physical vibration of real, unforced breath is incredibly intoxicating to a man's nervous system. It triggers his absolute deepest emotional desire to provide for you and protect you, because he is physically feeling the literal resonance of your honest bodily reaction, not listening to a scripted audio track. Let's talk about the absolute physical intensity of your eye contact when you are heavily fooling around, because this is another area where the performative mechanics completely sabotage the real emotional connection. You have been told that maintaining aggressive, unbroken eye contact is the ultimate sign of a confident wild woman in the bedroom. So you lock your eyes wide open, you forcefully drop your brow, and you give him this intense, unblinking panther stare while you are getting down. You think you are looking at him with pure ravenous hunger, but let us dissect the actual mechanics of what your facial muscles are doing. When you force your eyes to stay open without naturally blinking, your ocular muscles strain, your forehead tightens, the micro expressions around your eyes become completely rigid and frozen. To a guy, that intense, unblinking glare does not emotionally translate as passion. It literally feels like he is being scrutinized under a microscope or hunted by a predator. It puts his nervous system on high alert instead of making him feel deeply desired. The mechanical alternative is to radically soften your gaze. You do not need to stare a hole through his skull to prove you are present. I want you to mechanically relax the tiny muscles completely surrounding your eyes. Let your eyelids drop halfway. Let your eyes organically flutter closed when he touches a spot that feels incredible, and then let them slowly, heavily drag back open to meet his gaze. When a man sees your eyes physically roll back slightly or flutter shut because the physical sensation he is providing is just too good for you to process visually, his ego completely skyrockets. That soft, half-lidded, heavy gaze tells him that you are physically drowning in the feeling of him, which is a million times sexier than a rehearsed, dead-eyed stare down. We have to dissect the actual mechanics of kissing when things are incredibly heated, because this is where the physical tension absolutely wrecks the flow. When the heavy action starts, you suddenly think your kissing needs to become aggressive to match the mood. You start aggressively mashing your face into his. You clench your jaw tightly and rely entirely on the muscular force of your lips. You start doing that highly exaggerated lip bite where you clamp down on his bottom lip and violently pull it, thinking it is this incredibly untamed cinematic move. Mechanically, what you are actually doing is causing physical discomfort and completely disrupting the sensory experience. Your lips become hard and unyielding. You are literally bumping teeth with him because your jaw is locked in a tight, combative position. Kissing during intense physical intimacy should not feel like a boxing match. The mechanical shift here is to physically melt your mouth. I want you to consciously unclench your teeth. Let your jaw physically drop open slightly, completely relaxing the hinge of your jawline. When your mouth is soft and yielding, it becomes infinitely more sensitive to his touch. Instead of aggressively biting and pulling, use the soft, heavy pressure of your open lips to drag across his skin. Let him dictate the depth and the angle for a moment, physically surrendering the muscular control of the kiss. When a man feels your mouth completely soften and open up to him, it is the ultimate physical translation of receiving him. It feels deeply welcoming, profoundly intimate, and it entirely removes the jarring, mechanical clashing that kills the romantic momentum. Let's talk about what happens mechanically to your body when the action hits its absolute peak, because your physical reaction in this exact moment tells him everything he needs to know about your comfort level. So many women get incredibly in their heads when they are approaching the finish line. You get so hyper-focused on looking pretty while finishing that you literally suppress your body's natural physiological reflexes. You tightly cross your arms over your chest. You squeeze your legs rigidly together and you forcefully hold your breath, trying to minimize your physical footprint. You are mechanically trying to contain the physical energy of the climax because you are terrified of looking messy or losing control of your carefully curated aesthetic. But here is the raw truth from the male perspective. When a guy is bringing you to the edge, he wants to physically feel the chaotic, uncontrollable explosion of your muscles. When you rigidly suppress it, he physically feels you hitting the brakes. He feels you emotionally withholding the most vulnerable part of the experience from him. Mechanically, when you feel that wave building, I want you to physically do the exact opposite of contracting. I want you forcefully throw your hands above your head. Splay your fingers wide open and tangle them deeply into the bedsheets. Let your spine naturally, uncontrollably arch without forcing it. Let your legs fall completely open and physically push your hips heavily into his. Allow your breath to aggressively escape your lungs in whatever loud, messy, guttural sound naturally happens, giving a man the completely unchoreographed, violently beautiful physical release of your entire body is the single most emotionally intoxicating gift you can give him in the bedroom. It absolutely shatters the performative wall and binds him to you in a way nothing else can. Finally, we absolutely have to discuss the physical mechanics of the immediate aftermath, because this is the exact moment where so many women accidentally ruin all the incredible intimacy they just built. The deed is done, the heavy breathing is starting to slow down, and what is your immediate mechanical reaction? You physically retreat. The second the main event is over, you suddenly remember your insecurities. You mechanically snap back into your protective, performative shell. You violently yank the blanket up to your chin to hide your stomach. You physically roll completely over, turning your back to him so you can discreetly wipe away your smudged mascara or fix your tangled hair. You pull your knees up to your chest, physically creating a massive barrier between his body and yours. This mechanical withdrawal is absolute emotional whiplash for a man. In his mind, you two just shared this incredibly raw, bonded, physical experience, and the very next second, you are physically shutting him out like a stranger on a subway. It makes the entire physical act you just shared feel incredibly transactional and emotionally hollow. He feels the literal temperature of the room instantly plummet. The actual authentic sexy move happens in the literal physical space immediately following the action. I need you to completely reframe your physical approach to the afterglow. Do not mechanically flee the scene of the crime. Do not instantly try to reconstruct your physical armor. Mechanically, I want you to stay exactly where you are and let your body turn into absolute liquid. Let your arm rest entirely like a dead, heavy weight directly across his bare chest. Keep one of your legs completely thrown over his thighs. Leave your face completely exposed, smudged makeup, sweat and all, and rest your cheek heavily right against his shoulder. When you mechanically choose to stay physically tethered to him when you are completely bare, completely unstyled, and entirely vulnerable, you are speaking a physical language that men understand deeply. The emotional translation of a heavy, melted, lingering body is absolute safety. It tells him that you do not just want him for the mechanical thrill of the ride, but that you genuinely crave the deeply grounding, quiet, physical warmth of his presence. I need you to really hear the core philosophy of what we have discussed today. The absolute sexiest thing you can ever do when you are getting busy with a man is to physically inhabit your own actual skin. Men are incredibly intuitive when it comes to physical touch. They can literally feel the difference between a woman who is acting out a scripted magazine cover fantasy and a woman who is genuinely, mechanically surrendering her physical form to the absolute pleasure of the present moment. You have to stop holding your breath. You have to stop locking your spine. You have to stop hovering your body weight. You have to stop creating artificial tension just to maintain an illusion of perfection. The rigid, performative mannequin act is what is actually turning him off and creating the emotional distance in your relationship. Drop the routine, exhale all the air out of your lungs. Let your muscles turn to heavy liquid. Let your hands flatten out. Let your neck completely give way. When you physically choose to trade your manufactured, tense performance for messy, heavy, wildly authentic mechanical surrender, you unlock a level of intense, magnetic, unforgettable intimacy that will make him absolutely obsessed with you. Because true sex appeal is never about how perfectly you can hold a pose. It is entirely about how deeply and authentically you are willing to let go.